session. This is a session on the overview of Asian philosophy, and we are extremely happy to have two pioneers in this field, Professor Brian van Norden, Chair of Philosophy at Vassar College, and Stelios Virdakis, Stelios, always with your surname, Stelios Virdakis, Professor of Philosophy at the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens. Thank you very much. Brian.
Well, thank you all for coming today. There's so many people to thank, but I'll just briefly thank Jeffrey Sachs and also the wonderful Academy of Athens. It's really awe-inspiring to be here. There's many things we're going to be talking about today, but I'll just briefly say that when it comes to comparisons of Western and non-Western philosophy, people tend to go to two extremes. They either tend to notice the similarities and assimilate different traditions, or they tend to notice the differences and treat traditions as completely incommensurable. And I'm part of a school of thought that likes to look for, in the words of my teacher, Lee Yearley at Stanford, similarities in differences and differences in similarities. That is to say, you look for the genuine similarities but aren't afraid of the differences you find, and you identify differences but don't find it necessary to ignore the similarities that sometimes appear among those genuine differences. Without any further ado, I'll turn it over to our first speaker. Bishop Marcello will be talking on Aristotle and theology in 10 minutes.
But we don't hear a discourse about the common good, finding common ground, cultivating the virtues of temperance or practical wisdom and so forth. And that, I think, is why we have such a high stakes in this discussion. Thanks.
Yeah, those are very insightful comments. I'll just abuse my privilege as co-chair to make a brief comment. I think, in my opinion, one thing I sometimes tell my students about Thomas Hobbes is that he's the smartest, stupid person you'll ever read, because Hobbes has this utterly juvenile conception of human nature, but he develops a political philosophy out of it with ruthless consistency, and it's become immensely influential in Western thought. And to give you a sense of two very different approaches to human nature and also to politics, I'd recommend, if you haven't already done so, read Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan and read the Mengzi, which is an eponymous Confucian work, M-E-N-G-Z-I. I'm biased because I translated it, but it is a deeply influential Confucian work, in some ways more influential than even the Analects, the sayings of Confucius himself. And you'll get two very different conceptions of human nature, and with them two very different conceptions of politics and different recommendations for how we should proceed from here. But let me ask the speakers, would you like to say something?